All right, we're back. Let's talk about some upsets. Let's start with Chicago Red Stars going up against San Diego Wave FC, getting all 3 points, 1-0. This one goes all the way to the Red Stars. And look, we talked about it on the preview a little bit. Is this going to be the week where they get a result? I think they had this one with the makings of a draw, but you went with the
I
Red
sure
Stars
did.
all the way, Lisa, and they pulled through for you. And they pulled through after some fines to Chris Petroselli for social media conduct. He was out there tweeting about the planes and travel situations, and they had to go into this game pretty shorthanded. One of the things that I noticed right away for Chicago in this game is the starting 11's drop is, just the lack of depth right now that they have. And um this isn't something new for the Red Stars this year, right? But it is something that I'm like, gosh, we're 14 weeks in. You would
Mhm.
hope that this organization could figure out a way to get some more depth for this team moving forward, but that just hasn't been possible for the team as they navigate all of these different things off the field in terms of trying to find new ownership as well. But looking at San Diego and having 20 player available, game day roster available to them, and then with Chicago only 17, and that's also without Julia Bianchi because she was issued the red card and had to serve the game. So I was like a little nervous. At least I was like, uh-oh. Are they going to have the enough personnel to get them through a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit surprising, even though I picked Chicago to win this game. I think that as it was unfolding, I was a little bit nervous about how it was actually going to
Yeah.
happen between these two sides because San Diego, they look dangerous, right? When you look at the front line that they have and Jaden Shaw, Mackenzie Doniak getting an opportunity, and they do get a goal. They get one from Doniak earlier in this game, but unfortunately, Taylor Korniak is offside at the initial service into the box in the lead up to this goal for San Diego early in this game, and it gets called back. And I think there was a collective sigh of relief from the Red Stars at this point that you could just see through your television screen. I'm sure you could hear it all throughout the Chicago suburbs and Chicago. But as this game continued to go on, I think that it was really good for Chicago to have Kayla Sharples in that back line again. Bianca St. George, although she's not going to the World Cup, that's going to be a huge catalyst for the Red Stars. She's a stellar player that has this kind of like never say die mentality that can continue to go and continue to run. I think there's really positive moments, and ultimately it's one goal that makes a difference in this game, and it's a
Yeah.
fantastic goal. The service from the wide areas by Tatum Milazzo into the box, and Ella Stevens getting her noggin on it at the near post, redirecting it. There was absolutely nothing that Yanez in goal for the Wave could do. It was a beautiful goal, really.
I thought this was Milazzo's one of her best game in months. Honestly, I know the team started off in a certain kind of way. And you look for those bright spots in the back line, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about Kruger and the season that she's put together for this team. And there was a month there, I believe, when Milazzo was named to team of the month, but you lose all that, right, when everyone is so focused on the losses outside of the locker room. So to see this game come together for Milazzo, I think we are starting to see the value in having four in the back,
Yeah.
for a team like Chicago, and Sharples is a huge part of that in her return. But I love the link up between Milazzo and Stevens. It was it was a little bit of an illusion. I think you look at the buildup on this play, and you almost wonder if it's moving too slowly for Chicago, that they're not going to capitalize on the opportunity in front of them. And yet, it's a great ball in, and it's a great run by Stevens to get into the perfect position to put the ball away. But it's also the timing of this goal for me. It's right when you think this game is going to be 0-0 at the half, and they get it in stoppage time of this first half. So it's like, okay, you thought this was maybe gonna, be a little bit of a long night for San Diego. We talked about that on the preview as well, Lisa, that there was going to be the turnaround for this team in a midweek Challenge Cup game, that they were going to have the travel on them going into Bridgeview. But what were we going to see from Casey Stoney coming into this game? Were we going to see more substitutions in light of having the extra minutes in the
Yeah.
midweek match? And we did see that. We saw Turnbow come on into, early into the second half for Rachel Hill. We saw Ali get in later, Barcenas getting in later, trying to, go ahead and, get someone in there to maybe shake things up a little bit. But I almost kind of felt like maybe it was a little bit too late. I think at that point, if you allow this Red Stars team to get organized, which is something that they're capable of doing, if you allow them to get into a zone where they can execute in organized shape, that's not going to be good for you.
No, yeah. I think we saw that. Yeah.
And doing that with Emily Boyd, a different goalkeeper in net, I was very excited for this player to get this result. This is a player that has had to deal with nagging injury this year. Haven't been able to see this player get rotated in, not even during Challenge Cup group matches. And I think it was a nice reintroduction because I think people forget that Emily Boyd is a keeper that likes to come off of her line sometimes and get aggressive on the ball. Thought she had a really good game as well. It's I think at this point in this phase of the season, Chicago's in a position where they can't lose any game moving forward. If they want to try and make some type of a run, some type of a, miracle comeback. And maybe this is one of those games where they remain motivated by that. So, playing up against a upper half table team, handing San Diego a third consecutive regular season loss. I think that's something that you want to hang your hat on a little bit. Maybe you go into the July 4th weekend feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think they have to be happy with this one. Can they close out this NWSL Week 15 coming up with them, pick up a couple more points before they head into the bye week and then a Challenge Cup break? It looks pretty good, right? This is the time of the season where teams that have maybe been struggling for a little bit are going to stay consistent, because Chicago, although they haven't been picking up points and they're at the bottom of the standings, they've been playing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. They just haven't been able to put a full 90-minute game together. And I'm going to argue that this still wasn't even maybe a full 90-minute game, but they had just a little bit more than San Diego did at this point. They had an opportunity off the post. They were able to get one in before the halftime came, and then they could just weather the storm of the second half of play. Yeah, I'm excited about the next couple of weeks for the Red Stars and what they can do. Maybe a bye week in there will allow them a little bit more time to restructure. They'll get Bianchi back, or no, they won't, right? She's gone.
You know what? She's going to be back from a red card suspension. And it depends on how they want to utilize her. I know that this is a player that they are starting to get more games in terms of like being an actual figure in the starting 11. And I think they're going to have the opportunity to do more of that. I think they were unsure whether or not this player was going to go to the World Cup. Now with Brazil's roster, final 23 player roster out there, she was not named to that roster. Is Chicago going to lean into that and try to lean on this player a little bit more now that they know they're going to have her?
Yeah.
So I would love to see it. I know, you mentioned earlier one of the possible areas that Houston could look into and try to lean into for their strengths could be off of dead ball situations or set pieces. I love Bianchi on those opportunities for Chicago. So hopefully moving forward, they want to try to integrate her more into these regular starting lineups, and we get to see that a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see for the next one and see how they build off of this. Let's talk about another upset, though, before we take a break. We have to chat all about Portland Thorns and Kansas City Current, because the Current went on the road to Portland and handed the Thorns a 1-0 loss. What a time in week 14.
Seriously, we both went Portland in this one, which I stood by that up until, the penalty kick happened. And that's really how this happened for Kansas City. Michelle Cooper, she knocks down a penalty kick, becomes the second youngest player to do that in the NWSL, score a penalty kick for their team, right behind Mallory Swanson. And that was the difference maker, the lone difference maker in this NWSL 2022 championship rematch between these two sides. Bless you. I know this is an audio medium, but Sandra took a
Thank
sneeze
you.
on mute over there. Bless you, bud.
I'm a pro. I mute myself when I got to sneeze.
Yeah, I mean, interesting matchup in Portland, and now this is the first time Portland takes an L at home during this regular season. Tough for them.
I everything was there for us in the preview, Lisa. So, like, again, bringing the preview on a little bit to the recap show. Of course, we were like, you know what, we're gonna go with the Thorns.
Yeah.
In this one, we talked about depth being another one of those X factors for this team, that they, yes, are coming off of a midweek Challenge Cup game. Even though that was a loss as well, they are still going to be at home. They don't have to worry about the travel. They could just continue to prepare for the week in front of them. It's a little bit different when you go from Wednesday through Saturday. It's not as if you have a travel that's involved, or for a Friday night kind of game. None of that was involved in this one. And we thought, what kind of minutes, or how many minutes would we see for Morgan Weaver specifically? Were we going to see a start for Olivia Moultrie? Was Sam Coffey going to get that armband again? All of these little things. And we got to check off those boxes.
Yes,
and we saw them.
Which is very cool.
We saw that we saw all those things in this game, which I think a 1-0 scoreline tells a little bit of that story for this game specifically. I don't know if Kansas City can say that somewhere along the way you have to have some luck go your way. And I love that the lone goal in this game did come off of a penalty situation.
I know.
But that penalty was won by a first-year player in Sandra, and that penalty was converted by another first-year player in Michelle Cooper. So I love
rookies are showing up, and that's been honestly a lot of the blame that we've put on why Kansas City, and we as like in a general, we have put on Kansas City over the last couple of weeks, and why they've struggled is because they're without their big veterans, right? Whether it's Dabinia that's hurt, or DiBernardo out with a concussion in this game, Gautreau getting back from injury. That was the biggest thing. Hamilton, hey, when can we get these big time players back into the game and let them get on a run for Kansas City? And that's still a factor in this, of course, right? You want everyone to be healthy, but you can rely on your rookies. Alexis Spanstra, Michelle Cooper, they can do it. They can show up big in these games. You just have to give them the confidence and give them a little bit of time. And that's exactly what they did. We do see Kristen Hamilton get a full 90. Morgan Gautreau starts the game and then comes out. But yeah, I mean, really happy for Michelle Cooper. I think a few weeks ago I said this, like, once she gets one, that's when the floodgates will open. Honestly, I'm predicting like similar to Diana Ordonez in her rookie year last year. She got one, and then it just started to click for her. She was feeling herself. Once you get confident, your teammates understand your positioning on the field, and you create those partnerships. That's what happens about halfway through the season, and we're just a few weeks over halfway.
I would love to see Michelle Cooper completely capitalize on a second half of the season. She had to navigate that first half pretty early. They tabbed her right away with starts because of so many injuries to the roster. Now they're starting to work players back into form. Here's the World Cup period of the schedule. She's getting worked into these starting lineups with players missing, with players still having to navigate injuries as the season goes on. So I would love to see that from Michelle Cooper. I think it's possible we could see something special. Maybe those goals are going to come just like you said.